Hello everybody, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. I know it's late, but I thought I'd just quickly give my thoughts on the game because tomorrow at 11 I'm going to be doing the Fallout. I know we've done a couple of episodes and I'm going to be diving into the stats a lot more then, and because I want to watch the game again. I want to kind of get a bit of an understanding tomorrow morning, and then we can chat live then. So join me tomorrow at 11 a.m. and in the comments of this video get your questions in there, because it'll be quite interesting to see them. But I kind of just come through the door and thought, I feel kind of prosperity and almost for my own understanding. I kind of want to just reveal how I feel about the game, both briefly up from a Scottish side, but I feel like there's obviously a lot to talk about and unpack when it comes to England. So let me get the Scotland half out of me first. From a Scotland point of view, I'm really proud of the boys, and I thought they had a game plan. Andy Robertson said that himself. He said, I've got a game plan. You've got to see if it's going to work out. And it did. And the work rate of that team was absolutely astounding. And when you look at these games, I've said this a few times on the channel, is that you basically there's games where you're concerned and there's games where teams are concerned of you. And there's a kind of sway on that, right? For Scotland in the game against Czech Republic, they had to go and get at them. And they weren't that concerned, right? And that kind of can sometimes highlight deficiencies in your team. Players like O'Donnell, for example, the finishing of Lyndon Dykes, for example. But in games against oppositions where you're concerned about them, sometimes that can kind of reveal the strengths of a team. And I think that's where Scotland lie a little bit. Almost they kind of, when the expectations are low, they do really step up. And that's where I was concerned about them, was that were these players going to be able to deal with Wembley? But I think like the conditions, like the whole feel of it, and then some key moments in the game kind of fell for Scotland somewhat. And they took advantage of that. And it's a lot easier to stop an opposition than to break down an opposition. But all that said, the Scottish half of me is like crazy proud of how well they did, how they fought, how they were focused, they're concentrated, gave as good as they got, and they did brilliantly. And I'm just so, without any kind of feeling. And that's what I mean. It's so awkward and weird when you're sort of, your mum's Scottish and your dad's English, is that a draw worked for me because it's still alive for Scotland and for England. And this is something to remember, England fans, is we got 4 points. And that was something I said to someone on the train, was like, going into it, Croatia, Scotland, would you have taken 4 points? I think if we did a straw poll of every single England fan, they would have gone 4 points. 60% of people would have said, yeah, all right, I'll take that. I'll take that. 4 points. We're definitely through, aren't we? After 2 games. And we are pretty much through, right? Please don't, hurt me after that one. So yeah, so from that point of view, it's okay. But in terms of that performance, that specific performance, and we're getting on to England now, it was disappointing, wasn't it? It was poor, because I think the expectations of Scotland and England are very, very different. And the question with England is, can they win it? We want them to win it. And one thing that I do think is important is that the general feeling that I have for Scotland is that they can't win it. My feeling for England is that they could win it. They probably won't win it, but they could win it. So we must remember that and must kind of stay in that place. Now, that said, that was really disappointing. And and that English half of me is really annoyed that we didn't have any more gears to get through. And as someone who is a Southgate fan, I love Southgate as a person. I'm desperate for him to succeed. I don't think there's a better person to manage England right now. And again, a lot of people get angry about that. He has to be better in the second half of games. That's how I feel right now. We'll look into it tomorrow in terms of the substitutions. And this is part of it's a problem and it's a joy, is that the England squad has so much depth and so many options that Southgate has to kind of make some very clear decisions to kind of get around the noise of the squad, let alone the noise of the media, the noise of us fans going, you've got to play Grealish, you've got to play this player, you've got to play Rashford, you've got to play Shaw, you've got to drop Sterling, all these different things, right? And so he has to kind of have patterns in place and strategies in place that are going to work. But then when I think about it deeply, I think about the teams that do well in international football. They have a set formation and system in play, and it kind of works for them, and they have that chemistry. And when you look at England, first half of a game, you're seeing how the cards fall, right? And I can live with that. It's the second half where he's done, of the 10 things that you need from a manager, right? Being the front man, being the figurehead, calming down the noise, running through the noise, like selecting a good squad, being sort of that reasonable calm, like creating a great culture. Like, he's done all these things, get buy-in from the fans and from the players, bring through young players, have the foresight of understanding who those new players are. These are all great things, right? But where you earn your money, truly, and where you live and die, is in the second half of football matches. And in the second half of this football match, Southgate and his team, and I think that's always worth remembering as well, they didn't have the answers, And the bottom line is, I thought in the first half, if I'm trying to remember the chances, England had, it felt like 4 chances, if I'm right. Mount had 1, Stones had 1, Foden had 1, Kane had 1, Scotland had 2. I would expect in the second half for that to double. So England to have 8 chances, Scotland to have 4, and then from that point you go, who takes them and who doesn't? The disappointing and scary thing for England is that we scored 1 goal out of the 2 games. And in the second half, we didn't really create that many chances. That's a problem. We at this stage, we don't seem to be able to go through the gears or find different solutions. That is where Southgate will be judged. And I've said this, as much as I like him, he will be judged in this tournament, and he will be judged in this tournament in the second half of games. He's got to get it right. And getting it right means scoring goals, winning games. And on this occasion, we haven't done that. And that's a concern. In terms of the tactical breakdown of that, I'm going to save that for the morning. I have some really strong feelings on it. I think some of the anger that's on Twitter is misplaced on the wrong kind of players. And I also think that it's about, like, there's maybe there's a lack of belief in the squad deep down, but there's not a lack of desire or want. There's no, I don't doubt that for a second. But it just hasn't worked in this game. And I always thought this as well, is that you look at Croatia and thought, that works, that we won the game, everything suits us. We only scored that 1 goal. But I knew that the judgment then broadens into a data set of 2, right? So if you win 1 and draw 1 against a team you should have beaten, then we'll start to pick more holes in this Croatia game. And then, of course, all the holes that you can pick in the Scotland game as well. So it's interesting, right? And in terms of players, we're going to get into that tomorrow morning. But broadly speaking, I am disappointed. It was poor. There was a lack of ingenuity, exuberance, freedom at times, energy at times, and bravery at times, I think. And that's disappointing. On the other hand, for Scotland, superb. Like John McGinn, wow. O'Donnell, you shut me up, mate. Well done. Lyndon Dykes, works tirelessly. Che Adams was such a difference maker for Scotland in terms of just being a threat and being a concern to England. So well done to Scotland. I think let's not forget that. As much as they are the 3rd lowest ranked team in this, they really, really showed that they can be a good team. And that's the thing, is it's really interesting that there are games, it's almost like Scotland look better against good teams because our expectations drop, and it's just about being plucky, which suits Scotland. In that Czech Republic game, I felt like that kind of didn't suit them as much. And so when you're looking at O'Donnell to go and be that attacking threat, it didn't really suit him. Whereas in this game, there wasn't that same burden, and so that wasn't the same burden on his shoulders, and he played with that element of a bit more freedom and opportunity and excitement when he got into the attacking third, and same for a lot of the players there. But the driving with the ball, the work rate, the shape, putting your body on the line, that bundle at the end where McGinn, you watch that back, McGinn comes from nowhere and gets a bit of luck, and that is football games, and that's how I will look at football games sometimes. There are elements of luck. Final thing I do want to say is that football games are about taking your chances. And in that first half, if John Stones scores that header or Mason Mount takes that chance, England start popping it about. Scotland start to sort of, push out a little bit more. There are gaps, there are holes, there's not the same pressure. And we are talking about this game in a very different light. So you've got to take your chances. You've got to take your chances. You've got to score the first goal, and you've got to score goals. So much more to unpack. We're going to do it tomorrow, 11 a.m. Join me on this channel and get any topics or questions that you want in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I'm going to sleep this one off, and I'll see you in the morning. Bye.